Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 167 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long. We're coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We have another great guest today. I'm very happy to have Amia Massey on the podcast today, who is the Human Resources Director for Gaston County. However, that's only one of the reasons that she is on today. Amia is also the current chair of the advisory board for Gaston Together, where we serve together. I am looking forward to hearing about her leadership and community journey. Amia, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, this is exciting. Luckily, Amia has originally, I guess, is that the first time we met with your daughter? And
yes,
when I was coaching that fantastic team back at First Methodist
championship team.
Did we win a game? So yeah, when our girls were 7 or 8, we were playing on the youth sports program at First Methodist Church, and I'll just leave it at that. So, we'd like to get started real quick, just for our listeners. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything that you'd like to share.
All right. I am originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. My mom is from Gastonia, and
She was a good lady.
Yeah, and so I graduated from Davidson College, started work as a social worker in Lincoln County, and then moved to Gaston County. And our church is here. And so once I got married, my husband said, well, he's always worked in Charlotte. We'll go to move close to where we go to church and where you work. So he gave me that so I didn't have to travel far. So we've been here since that time, and love our community. We have 4 kids, 2 older. I call them young adult humans, and then our 2 youngest ones. My son just graduated last year from Gardner-Webb University. I have a daughter who is at Auburn. The 2 oldest are out the house and have their own families. And we have our pet Marley, who's at home. And so that's me. I'm a family person.
What is Marley?
Marley, she's a pit bull.
Okay.
Friendliest dog ever. Okay. She's scared of her own shadow. So not a protection dog.
I understood.
But I'm a family person. I love what I do as the working in HR, and I'll talk a little bit later about the journey there. But I enjoy working with people, and so that's kind of a little bit about me.
All right. Well, we kind of like to start off with talking a little bit about your work, and then how that leads into community and your leadership journey. But kind of what inspired you to get to where you're going, what you're doing now, and in this type of work?
I was unemployed for 22 months. So after leaving social work, school system, I worked as a social worker there. I got a job as as the director of operations for the Gaston Boys and Girls Club. And eventually I was named the executive director. So I was there for 8 years until we closed. And I was unemployed for 22 months. That was a first. I've worked since I graduated from college. Struggled just trying to understand what I was supposed to learn in this space. I had a master's degree, and I was accustomed to going on interviews and getting jobs that I applied for, and it wasn't happening. So I knew I liked working with people. I felt like I had the ability to, transition into a different career. And I began reaching out to mentors and just trying to figure out where's a good landing spot. And a friend of mine sent me the job opening for Gaston County HR. And I applied for it, got the interview. The commissioners put a hiring freeze. I was like, okay, really? And so faith is extremely important to me.
Sure.
And I had to lean in, especially during that time, not working. And I found a scripture, and the promises of God are yes and amen. And so I said, all right, I believe your promise for me. I know there's a door somewhere that's going to open for me. I just got to hold on. And so I put the job in that scripture, in my Bible. And I said, well, hiring freeze, let me just keep doing. So I was a sub, a permanent sub at Ashbrook High School. ninth grade biology. Don't know why they put me there. However, that's where opening was. I do not do science or any of that, but we had a great time.
Oh, good.
And my experience from working at the Boys and Girls Club, again, and one thing about leadership, you learn how to transfer your skills
Sure.
and use those skills in different places. So my work there helped me to really manage the classroom and deal with some of the things that came up there. So I was doing that, working in Bath and Body Works. And I got a call back to check in on the job, and Pam Overcash, who was ended up being my supervisor, said, well, they've lifted the hiring freeze, but I need to bring back in the final candidate. Like, really? Can you just not tell me if I got the job? And so she said, because it's been so long. So long story short, I came back in for an interview and ended up getting the job as an HR coordinator. So that started my career with Gaston County. And I want to say I was not the most qualified. And I think this is important for people when you're looking for work or you're feeling like you want to change industries. There was a person that interviewed who was a VP in HR. There was a person that interviewed who was an HR manager. And here I am from a Boys and Girls Club. Yes, I had experience and qualifications around certain HR functions, but that wasn't my career. However, I was able to go in and speak to the skills and abilities that I had, what I was going to bring to the team, and basically sell myself that I know I can do the job. Whatever challenges I was going to have, as long as I'm taught and I know expectations, I'll be able to, do what I need to do. And one thing she told me, which has always stuck with me, is as long as there's willingness and desire, then I can teach you what you need to know. And I believe in that. and I use it now when I'm interviewing and I'm looking at candidates. They may not have all of the qualifications, but if they have the willingness and the desire, then we can ensure they have the competency part, the skills that they need and the knowledge piece and all of that to be successful.
Oh, well, what a great point. So, yeah, and I think that's been our experience too here is we can train the technical pieces of our jobs if they're have a good attitude, willingness to learn. I'm not sure ambition is the right word, but just, that drive to get better. And so, yeah, what a great lesson there. So, we love talking about leadership, tying it into our work, tying it into our community. So what would you describe some of the leadership lessons you've learned along the way? Because you kind of described some ups and downs there, and here we are at it's got to be the peak of your life now, right? Being on the Gaston's Great podcast.
Yes, it is.
So it's just something that you've learned along the way, which you already shared a great one.
So, don't take everything personally.
Ooh.
Don't take situations and things that happen as a personal attack. Busyness doesn't necessarily mean you're being productive. You're effective, or you're meeting expectations. We can be busy doing the wrong things or the right things. However, are we focused on what we should be focused on? And I recognize I've had some missed opportunities when I did not see issues or identify them early enough because I maybe was busy doing other things or my focus wasn't where it needed to be. And so there were some problems and things that were created or developed. I had to initially eventually handle them. However, I attribute the busyness part of it. Oh, I'm always doing something. I'm, doing this, that I wasn't focused where I needed to be focused. And then don't avoid what's uncomfortable. And so I have learned to get comfortable in uncomfortable situations and don't try to ignore when issues come up and things need to be addressed. Definitely don't avoid the tough, hard conversations. If you need to have a conversation, have it. And because when you don't have it and there are issues, it just allows them to continue to fester.
They don't typically go away.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be there.
Yeah. Wow, so you covered a lot there. There's two things that jump out at me. First, your very first one, don't take things personally. That's hard, isn't it? I mean, there's a great book, if you've ever heard of it, if you're a reader, called The Four Agreements. And man, one of them is don't take things personally. And I think another one is don't make assumptions, maybe.
Yes, yes.
Those two go together, in my opinion. But yeah, I shouldn't say I love to take things personally. That's a personal take on me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so easy to get pulled into that, especially the world we live in today. It just seems like there's so much, I can read something online that happened across the world. Oh, they're talking about me.
Well, and when you're trying to do what's right, or you ideas, I talk with my team all the time. I believe in a feedback culture. And so that means I'm going to ask how I need to improve the areas that, how can I support you more? But you don't always know what you're going to receive, what you're going to get. And so if I put myself out there, I can't take it personal because they've given me some feedback that may be a little hard to swallow.
Right.
And it could very well be true. It's true, at least from their end, their perception. And so how do I handle that? How do I acknowledge, what they've said and listen to it, and then make appropriate changes if necessary? I can't take it personal. I can't, because if I do, then I'm going to respond or react out of my feelings.
And you won't get any more feedback.
Exactly.
Or not honest feedback.
Exactly.
There's another similar great book called Radical Candor. I think that's the name of it. And it talks about, that, good leaders have to be able to give that feedback and be candid with their teams. But that's a two-way street, though. The best leaders are willing to take that information back and get that same feedback back and just accept it for what it is.
And not feel like you got to defend.
Right.
We say feedback is a gift.
Yeah, thank you, right, is the appropriate
That's right.
answer. And that's easier said.
It is.
It's easier said said than done.
I got some from my boss last week. And I've been reflecting on it. I have not talked with him since then, but I had to actually tell myself, Stephen, matter of fact, it was this morning. I was doing my devotion and praying, and I had to recognize that the feedback that was given, I held on to it a little too long. And, I had to shut down the narratives that I was creating and just accept it. Like, I had to tell myself, don't take this personally, step back from it. And I'm going to go back to him because, what the feedback he gave, I want to make sure that I understood it, so that way, if adjustments need to be made, we do that. But I had to talk to myself. Like, I recognized, you've held on to this a little long.
Well, I know I've learned this about myself, is that when I'm getting feedback, and I'm pretty sure that maybe they're misunderstanding or off, it doesn't bother me. When I really get mad is when I immediately know they're right. I don't know. I'm like, that really gets under my skin more so than when I don't believe it initially.
But that happens with my husband. And he gives me feedback and he's right. I hate to tell him he's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not going to go there. So you shared a lot there. I mean, where did you hear some of this stuff from? Is there something else that, leadership advice you've gotten along the way, or was what you just shared, and where did some of that come from?
A lot of that came from experience, gotcha. Which I believe is the best teacher. Best leadership advice, I think one of the things, so my son, he was going to Lingerfeld Elementary, and he was running for, I think it was secretary.
Okay.
And I was talking to Pam about, we need a slogan. And she said something, and it caught my attention. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's his slogan. And we did. He ran off of that. Special K, because his name is Kendall. And so Special K, and something, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. But I've held on to that because that's what she shared with me when it came to the work that we did. And I understand the importance and the value in what we bring to the organization. And we're the heart of the organization. So, there are times where we may want to do one thing. However, is it the right thing to do? Is it just because it's easy? Is it the easy thing to do? Or is it the right and the best thing to do? And so I've used that to really govern how I lead, even with our team. Sometimes the easiest thing is to send an email, okay, but have we had 4 or 5 emails going back and forth? Let's pick up the phone and call. Sometimes we need to have a face-to-face. We love these virtual Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
It is. It's easy. It's convenient.
It is.
But sometimes everybody needs to be in the room, and we need to be around the table. When it comes to decision making, I'm always led by what my values are, and I believe in the values of Gaston County. If I didn't, I wouldn't work there. That's important to me. I believe in we value people, we value our employees, the accountability, quality in our relationships, and our resources. I believe in that. And so because I do, it aligns with what my own personal core values are. I believe in doing what's right. And sometimes, you may be put in a situation where you're questioning, is this right? You're questioning agendas, you're questioning motives. And I just have to make sure I don't get caught up in, everything else that is going on externally. And I make sure that, from a compliance standpoint, what does the statute say? What does the policy say? And what is the right thing to do, as it relates to what's best for our employees. Our employees come in every day and we're providing a service to the community. And we should be serving our community and our citizens in excellence. And so we've got to make sure we have an environment. I believe in creating that culture of excellence. We got to have a culture that supports them in the work that they do so they can go out and do their jobs and be successful. So yeah, it's sometimes doing the right things means you're by yourself. Leadership can be a lonely place. Knowing who to trust. I went to Harvard a few summers ago. I had the opportunity to study there with an executive leadership program. And one of the things that we talked about, I learned about, was having sponsors and champions. And every, organization, you want to have somebody that champions you and champions the work that you do. Those are the people that, provide opportunities, or they'll speak up and say, hey, I think this person can do this. Your sponsors are the people that talk about you in rooms that you're not in. So you may not ever know that that individual has even mentioned your name. When I think about my leadership, I'm a sponsor and I'm a champion. But I believe in, talking about and giving opportunities to people. Also making sure that we're doing right to provide the resources that people need to be successful. I don't believe in gatekeeping, keeping and holding back information and, that tags, titles, that's never been a big thing for me. When I introduce myself, I say, hey, I'm Amia Massey. I work in HR department at Gaston County. I get on the elevator with new employees. They're like, hey, how you doing? And I never tell them who I am. And then they see me again. Oh, they see an email. You're the director.
You're in charge.
And it was like, I work in HR,
That's good. No, I agree. That's good.
And so when you kind of remove those barriers, then you can build relationship. And I think in doing that, you try to do what's right by people.
So those last two answers to those first two questions, that could be like a TED Talk, Amia Massey TED Talk. That was good stuff, Amia. But kind of as we're moving on, you covered a lot there. I know you're not just through work, but you've probably been exposed to a lot of things through work, but I know community plays a big part for you. Gaston Together, church, just, and other things, the civic engagement leadership, all that. Mm-hmm. So how does that play in your work and your kind of personal mission? Because everybody doesn't do that, and everybody that's here in Gaston County doesn't get involved in other things. So how does that all play in your mind?
So, you mentioned civic engagement leadership. That's really, I'll be honest, I was here in Gaston County, but I was focused on my kids. I went to work, I went home, and that was it.
That's a lot.
It is. It wasn't until I was part of civic engagement leadership, which is sponsored through Gaston Together, that I really learned more about Amia. It is an experiential program. It's a leadership program, but it's you learn about yourself. If you come in with an open mind and the way that the sessions and exercises are done, you don't leave the same. It was transformational for me. And one thing I committed to do after that program was be present, because we all had to talk about what we were, and I just said, I need to be present. I need to be more present. Present as it relates to my children's school. I became the PTO president and all that stuff. But present as it related to my community, because that's always been important in my family. My father he's 79 years old. He'll be 80 next year, and he is part of our association in the neighborhood. My parents are still in the house that I grew up in.
Oh, really?
He's a part of the association. He does all this stuff in the community. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, okay, he's 79. He's doing this. You can do something.
Yeah.
And so civic engagement leadership taught me about being present, stepping up, helping, and just seeing where can you assist, where can you make a difference, being in the know about what's going on, what are some of the issues, and then where can maybe my skill set, my talents, my ability, how can it be used, to help. And so I was offered an opportunity to serve on the Gaston Together board. That then opened up opportunities for me to serve on other boards. And I'm I'm cognizant of my time and how I spend it. And I'm not a resume builder. So it's not about, I got to have 20 boards behind my name. Wherever I'm serving, I want to make sure I'm serving.
Yeah, it's easy for that to get out of hand because organizations are dying for quality people like yourself to get involved.
So I take that into consideration.
Oh, sure.
And I want to make sure that it's something that does align with, my values and who I am and the things I'm interested in. And so with that opportunity, I became involved in different boards, and I've been able to, be a part of some amazing work in the community that I'm excited about. And I'm constantly saying, okay, God, where else or what more can I do to serve? Because I believe in servant leadership, and I believe we're here to serve others. And it's not just about being served. And we know what Jesus said about that, but it's about us serving others. So how can I do that? How can I share what has been, given to me, what's been poured into me? How can I pour out and, impact, inspire, influence? I believe that we should use our influence in a positive way.
Sure.
And so how do we use that influence to help others, to open up doors for others, to unlock, those opportunities?
All right. So work, family, community, leadership, church, putting all those things together, is there something that stands out that, gosh, you're most proud of seeing occur, or that you were involved with directly, indirectly through an organization you were involved with, or it could be anything, professionally, personally, something that stands out?
I would say professionally, seeing people that have trusted me with their growth and their development. I am a trainer at heart. I believe in developing people and giving them the tools they need to succeed. I get excited when someone has taken on a stretch assignment, and I know it's pulling everything that they have in them, but I'm walking along with them every step of the way, and to see them achieve that success. So employees that have worked for me that have been promoted, those who have taken on, sometimes I have these weird ideas. And so the team is like, oh, here she comes. But taking on, you cast the vision as a leader, you cast the vision, and then you got to have vision carriers. You got to have the people and they take it and they just, because of their skill set, their expertise, it blows your mind at what you can accomplish. I don't believe I know everything. I know I don't. I'm going to tell you why I'm successful, because I hire the best people who are smarter than me. And I don't mind that at all. I'm around the table. I'm like, they know. People ask, talk to them. They're experts. But that's important to me to have. I want to have 100 Amias around. No, we need to have the different perspectives, and we need to have the different, even to people who are, what do you call them? They resist. I learned in a training class, the resistors aren't the people that you avoid or ignore. No, you got to listen, because sometimes they have a lot to say, and maybe there's a variable or something we haven't considered, and why they're resisting, it could be a big deal. Get to the root of it, but don't just leave them out. So I just I'm proud of those who I've seen grow, who have gone on to do great things. Some of them have left to do those great things because we didn't have opportunities in-house. I'm okay with that too. Like I'm not one of those where you are with me and you just got to stay here.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have opportunity and that's what you're seeking.
Yeah, if you want somebody to grow, you gotta walk that walk, right?
Yeah. And I want you to get there, and I'm gonna be there supporting you. And my family, we have this thing, we're 10 toes down, we're in it, we got your back. That's me. So if it means that there's an opportunity that opened up in another department or even outside the organization, I'm going to do whatever I can to help you achieve that goal. So that's what I feel is an accomplishment when I see people, they're growing. I need people who are going to take my job, so I'm not intimidated about that. You know what? If it's time for me to go, that's great. We want to make sure we got the next person in line ready to take on.
Yeah, I think the hardest leadership lesson for most people, including myself, is training your replacement.
Yes.
Is ultimately what the job of a leader is. Is developing more leaders, and that can be a little scary because because either they're going to replace you, or you're going to grow them, and they're going to go potentially go somewhere else if your organization isn't growing enough, and that's hard. So that's a great, that's a great perspective and great lesson. And I want to paraphrase it, and I think that's our view of HR too here, and just in general, it's advocacy. I can say it. I probably can't spell it, but that's what I think HR should be about. It's development and advocating for the team members.
That's right.
And oftentimes I hear HR is to protect the company. I'm like, well, okay, but that's really not.
It's a part.
Yeah,
of
but
it,
I don't think that should be first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you think about what is the priority, I teach lead from your seat. So leadership isn't about the title. You don't have to have that title, but lead from your seat. And so how do we put initiatives and programs in place to teach people what the skills they need? I found that we promote a lot of people with the technical skills. They can do the job, but you and I both know it. The more you move up, the less you're doing as it relates to that job. And so the soft skills is what's important. And that has been my focus with my entire team. Whether you want a supervisory job or not, I need you to have those soft skills and how to deal with people, how to talk to people and build relationships, those kinds of things. So I just believe people can lead from where they are. And I'm most proud of us creating that kind of culture within our department as well as organizationally.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. Professionally, personally, what is there something that you look back on and boy, that was something that was a key factor in your overall success that you look back and say, wow, or is it just what you've described?
I would say a key factor, honestly, during the unemployment time, because me learning about myself and the fact that you don't always get what you want. It's not, my time. I learned patience. I learned how to embrace every moment during that time. And I learned what it meant to truly go through the challenge, go through, the process. And it's helped me in my leadership because when I've had difficult moments, I just have to sit for a few minutes and think back to, okay, what did you do during this time?
Experience you can pull from, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. as a Christian, I guess the whole, you might not get what you want, but you probably get what you need in this moment. Yeah, I don't like that.
No,
Right? I
and
don't
you
like
want to
that at
borrow,
all.
you want to negotiate.
That is
Like,
probably
really?
true. I don't want to do that. I mean, it's like when there's moments I think God's talking to me, I don't want to hit it right
Yeah.
now. That's just,
He has a sense of humor. I'm glad about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tell me about it. What about what's next for Amia? What's next for your industry, your community? How do you see what's next for our community? Just the things that you touch and you're involved with, and maybe even, HR is one of those things that it just touches everybody, or it should. And then maybe what's new and going on in the HR world. But, that's kind of a big, broad question.
Okay. So I'll break it down for what's next as far as internally, our team, we've been going through this process improvement. So we're working with Janet Schaefer, our director of process improvement. And I'm sure the team is probably tired of me at this point. If nothing else, Stephen, my legacy is going to be when they come in, we're going to have systems in place for us to be effective and for us to be more efficient, and just changing dynamics of our work. I have great team, great staff. And so we've been going through, just looking at some of the things that we're doing. Because, we get caught up in, well, that's how we've always done.
Oh, yeah.
And they know I don't want to hear that. That's
difficult phrase for a business.
Yeah, that's how we've always done. Well, why are we doing, and I'm asking all these questions. So we've been doing that internal work, and just cleaning up some things, and, trying to go paperless, and just all these great things that's going to help us to be more efficient and effective. As far as the HR industry, and I believe all of us struggle with this, SHRM, if you look at SHRM, they'll say, hey, top priorities or issues is engagement and retention. We're working to ensure that we have an engaged workforce. Everybody's not going to always like what they're doing or aspects of their job, but we want them to have some satisfaction, have achievement, be recognized, feel valued. And so how do we create a culture, and how do we create a workforce where it's healthy and it's productive, and that people have the resources that they need? People feel heard and they feel valued. And so we do a workplace culture survey, and this fiscal year we're focusing a lot on the results that we got from that. And just, working with departments, partnering with them to put some action plans in place to address where some of, there may be some issues that came up. But also, these are some things that we were able to do as a result of the feedback. And we've implemented a comp study, and the commissioners approved some great policy for us. So I'm excited about that and the work that we're doing. We have a supportive county manager and his team, and they're supporting this work. He's getting involved and going to, be having conversations with staff, and we're going to put some fun things in place for people to actually connect more with the executive team. There's a desire, for them to be more integrated into, hey, what everybody is doing, be more visible. So I'm excited about that. And again, that's where all these ideas, stuff comes up, and it's like, okay, slow down a minute. But that's the industry. As it relates to the community, we have some great issues, some significant issues.
Sure.
And I will say this, it's not one entity or one organization that's going to be able to solve it.
Right.
I'll tell you what I would like to see. I would like to see us as community organizations, as nonprofits, even the business community, for us to collaborate more, to have more discussions about how we can work together to solve some of these issues. Reduce territorial, being territorial. This is my initiative, my project, but how can we come together? I just believe that, in numbers, we can do more significant work than just one individual entity trying.
You've used the word effective multiple times. I think that's a great word, concept, because what we're trying to accomplish. You got to be effective with that, not just, and you even mentioned, busyness doesn't lead to effectiveness.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of us have all these different initiatives and everything, but at the end of the day, again, this is a term I learned from Harvard, what's ground zero? And sometimes we got to get back to the basics, and we got to make sure we have the foundation and the structure in place. So for our community, I would love for us to really, I just put forth a concerted effort to have the stakeholders who need to be around the table as it relates to the issues that need to be addressed. And we come open-minded, and we come recognizing that we all come out. When we come to the table, we bring who we are. We bring our experiences, our own personal values. We bring what we think is right. However, it goes back to what I said, but is that the right thing to do for this situation? And be willing to have those conversations, but don't stop with the conversation. Do something.
Right.
And so, don't just hear it, right? The word, you got to do, be a doer. So what do we need to do, and how do we come together collectively to do what needs to be done? And we need the business community support.
Sure.
We need the resources, and not just financial, but we also need them at the table. There's some great organizations and businesses that have wonderful models, business models. And I think sometimes, when you're a nonprofit, you're small, it helps when you can have, those kinds of discussions and examples and, a framework for, okay, how can maybe we implement this? And so, that's what I would like to see. Just us kind of really looking at, and we can't solve everything. So what's priority for Gaston County? That might not be what it is in another city or another community, but what are our top priorities? What are the initiatives and things, the issues that we've identified we need to address? And let's put some solutions in place and begin the work to do that.
You running for office?
No, I'm not.
Can I encourage you to run for office?
That's one of those bucket list things.
Well, I avoid politics, and actually that's the only thing I actually avoid talking about on here probably, but I've said my piece.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, this you have covered a lot of really good stuff. We're going to shift gears a little bit before we finish up, but is there anything that I haven't asked, that 22 pages of notes that you brought? Is there anything you want to make sure we... I know you have. That's been terrific. But I've also learned when people bring notes, if I don't mention it, they'll look back, oh, I forgot to mention that. So that's one reason I'm asking. Is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have asked, something you want to get across before we kind of start to land this plane so you can get back to changing the world away from here?
No, I these are great questions. I think it's a wonderful topic. And, leadership, one thing I learned, it was a leadership, but is it life lessons? General Colin Powell, he has a book, The 13 Lessons that he
I've
learned.
read a super short summary of that. I've not read the book.
And it's one, I can't remember the number of the lesson, but it basically talks about, I'm paraphrasing, don't allow your ego, don't let your ego be so tied to your position that when your position changes, then that impacts basically who you are.
Yeah.
And that's just stuck with me. That's why it's
I'm the top now. I've made it now, and I don't need to talk to,
Yeah. And I, I don't ever want to get so arrogant, because I think there's a difference between being confident in who you are. And I tell my children, you be confident in who you are, be confident in what you know. Don't get around a table or get in a setting and be afraid to speak up.
Sure.
Because someone knows more than you, that's okay. Ask questions. And so as a leader, that has stuck with me when I read it, because, I don't want, because I'm the HR director, that tie that I'm so tied to that if something happens, because I've been jobless, I've been without work, and then who am I now? And so it doesn't define me, this doesn't,
right.
Just because I'm the HR director, that's not all of who Amia is. I'm so complex, my husband would tell you. But I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful that I've been afforded this, opportunity to, be a part of a wonderful organization and grow with it. Because I took over during COVID. That was the scariest time in my life. That's when I learned.
Yeah, because you weren't hired as the HR director, right?
I was hired as the HR coordinator, and I left. I've left Gaston County twice and come back. That's another story. I'll leave right, handle your business, and do what you need to do. They'll welcome
Another
you
lesson,
back.
right?
That's
Yeah.
another lesson. But yeah, I was hired as an HR coordinator. So when I took over as an interim director, it was COVID.
Ugh. Yeah, what a strange time, right?
It was, and we led the effort for policy and just all this stuff for the organization. And I had never done a business continuity
that's when I was chair of the board of Gaston Together.
Yes,
That was weird.
it was a difficult time. I learned more during that time just about stuff that I never probably would have had involvement in. I mean, I had to work with public safety and the health department and all these people. We had a COOP task force and just areas of
so many unknowns.
Yeah. And so, and that's what I tell people, don't be afraid. That's where I learned to be comfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And still, produce. Every day my stomach would be in knots sometimes. I'm chairing these meetings. I don't know a first thing about,
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I've learned another big lesson I've learned is especially being involved in the community, trying to run a business, church, just so many organizations that the collaboration is important because we don't know what's going on.
Correct.
I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there is some of that, especially, I don't know, I would get asked something here even, during COVID especially, what should we do? I don't know. This is unprecedented.
Exactly. And but you bring up a good point. As a leader, it's okay not to know.
That's exactly right.
Sometimes you have people think they just have to know.
When I was younger, I didn't believe that, but as I thought I had to have all the answers.
Yeah, you don't have to have all the answers.
Exactly.
And sometimes the fun is actually going and finding the answer, because then you have conversations with people you never probably.
That's right. But the good leader will go find.
Yeah.
And ask and search. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow, this has been good. Maybe we should transcribe this one into a book. So, remember, Amia, this is a podcast about Gaston County. Not just Gaston County. Well, we've done some surrounding area guests as well. But, from your perspective, why, when we like focusing on good things in Gaston County, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. I love the small town feel of Gaston County. I'm from Charlotte, and I always thought I wanted to be in a big city. When I graduated, I thought I was going to be an attorney. International law. I did internship in Philadelphia when I was in college. I traveled to Africa and, did some different things. And I just thought, I'm going to be an attorney. And so I wanted this big, lifestyle, and I traveled here and there. And I honestly love living in, and I say small town, but the thing is, we do great things, and there's so many great amenities and opportunities.
It feels like it's just a unique spot at the moment for Gaston County. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're growing, we're thriving. I love the local, supporting the local businesses. And I'm going to throw out, the Wandering Cup is right across the street from us. I can walk down to Peterville. I like, seeing who we are and what we are becoming. And so it's been great for our family, the connections that we've made. My husband and I are very big on going to different restaurants. So we went to a restaurant in Mount Holly, and I was like, oh, I've never been over here,
Mount Holly downtown's a neat little place, yeah.
It's a neat place. So just, the different areas here, I think that what it offers, from the outdoor stuff to the indoor. Our staff did a retreat. And I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names, but it's a place over there, South Fork. We painting, and we did painted ceramics and all. But it's little neat, unique things like that where you don't have to just travel to Charlotte, to experience fun and, just, having, whether it's family stuff or you want to have a night out with the girls. My girlfriends will get together. We love Nellie's, and, we go in and the music and all that. So we just, for our family, we like that small. It's big enough to where traffic getting terrible. and you don't have to worry about running into people all the time. But then it's small enough to where it's still a family environment. And I do believe, regardless of, what people may say, we help each other when needed.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that it's not about your political affiliation. It's not about the denomination. It's not about whether you're a believer or you're not. When there's an issue and we need to come together on it, I truly believe there are people here who genuinely love and care for others, that, you know what, I'm here to support and do what I can do. And that's what at least that's what I've experienced, and I'm grateful for.
Well said. Very well said. I love this next question. Knowing what you know now, Amia, I know this was just a couple of years ago, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Ooh, this one I had to laugh. Take risks. Do not be afraid to take risks. I will say I was a vibrant, zealous, ambitious, young, a child and one who was curious, young adult. Life happens. And we coin this phrase, life be lifing. And sometimes when that happens, you lose a part of yourself. And so the risk taker in me became more conservative and needed more security.
Felt pressure to conform like we as we got through school and got older, yeah.
And so there's some opportunities that I probably didn't necessarily take advantage of that I should have because of that. I'll also say, don't get caught up in the opinion of others or be a people pleaser. Be authentic. Be who you are. Embrace who you are. Don't ever let a title, position, or career, I talked about this earlier, define your existence. And what's most important is give yourself grace and love who God created you to be.
Serious. We got book material here, Amia. So who's made the biggest impact on you?
Now this probably makes me emotional. Right. My father.
Okay.
He's a servant leader, humble, integrity, character. He taught me, and he has taught me, what it means to truly serve and love people for who they are. Even when mistreated, you never know that he didn't care about the person. He walks the walk. He's not perfect at all by any means, but his life is a life of serving, a life of giving. He speaks the truth in love, and he demonstrated that for our family. And when I've had difficult times dealing with stuff, he said to me, Amia, everyone is not like you, and that's okay.
Right.
Everybody's not going to do like you do. Everybody's not. And my husband, I married a man who gave me the same advice. Everybody's not going to do like you do. Everybody's not going to think like you think. But he stands up for what he believes in. And even when it's difficult, a difficult situation, a difficult conversation. My father was a guidance counselor by trade and then went into the ministry full time.
Okay.
And I have seen...
Which is similar, probably?
Yes. I have seen, that's why I've really seen that love carry out, being a PK and just dealing with the church and how people can treat you. Because you think, hey, we all in the church. Well, it's not always... It's not always love that's being shown or we're exemplifying that. But he's just a man who I look back on the hard times that we had as a family, or the hard times that he may have endured. And the thing is, he never lost who he was. You always, he's the same person. And one of the biggest things that I have taken from I call it his message, his life is a message to me, a sermon to me, is how I show up matters. So every day I have to think about how I show up. And every day's not, I'm not, hi, how you doing? And even though that's part of my personality, but I have to think about how am I showing up, not just for myself, but how am I showing up for my husband, my family, my church, my employees, my supervisors. How am I showing up? What do people experience when they encounter me?
Is it consistent or is it all over the place?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he has, and I put building strong relationships. And I believe that's one of my gifts that I got from him, the ability to build strong relationships and navigate, the differences in opinions and the different perspectives and all of that. I believe in meaningful relationships. And I got that from my father. And so anybody that knows him, they call him AC. They know he will do anything he can for anybody. And I have watched that play out in our lives. He does put others first. Sometimes, I would say at the expense of, we were on a trip to the Bahamas. I will never forget this. And he got a call about a member that had passed away. And he said, my mom said, we're going to have to cut our trip short. And I looked and I said, why? And she said, well, so they passed away. I said, but they're going to be dead when we get back. And so I was like, that's not changing. Can we not have our trip? But those were the things that we kind of got accustomed to.
How old were you? Do you mind me asking?
I was, I think I was a teenager.
Okay, well that's the first thing that would come to mind, right? What does that have to do with me?
Yeah, we were used to things being cut short or whatever, and so my mom kind of chuckled, but that was my dad.
Yeah,
he felt he needed to be there for the family, and so in my leadership, you can't be all things to everybody. Now, I got this from him, but what I will say is, what we've been trying to tell him is you got to take care of yourself, You got to also...
You can't help others.
You can't help. There you go. And I've recognized that I've got to be healthy. Both.
That can feel selfish, though, is a part of the issue with that.
But and if you're going to keep pouring out, you got to also be able to be empty, to be poured into, and put yourself in positions where you're being developed and you're, building yourself up and taking care of yourself. So spiritually, mentally, physically, I'm making sure that I am taking care of, my whole being so that I can be, I can do what God's created me to do and I can be who I'm supposed to be.
All right. So one last question. We're going to land this one. Doesn't have to be a historical figure, but somebody, if you could sit down and have coffee with or something, who would that be and why?
So I struggled with this one because there was so many. I have two, and I can just lump them together with what I want the conversation. Mother Teresa and Michelle Obama.
Okay.
Mother Teresa had a strong commitment to her faith.
She sure did.
And so how, in doing what she did, how do you maintain that faith? And because there was difficulty, she was praised and criticized.
Yeah.
And so being able to maintain that commitment to the faith. And Michelle Obama is just a strong woman to me, who exemplifies, it doesn't matter, again, your political affiliation, your color, whatever, race. She's a strong woman who is confident and been able to navigate in a world, in a territory, in waters.
Wacky world.
Yeah. That, regardless of what people said or did, she maintained who she was. So for both of them, how do you stand in the midst of adversity, in the midst of conflict, and, in even your successes, and embrace who you are, and
stay on mission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like to talk about. Being a woman.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I've studied a little bit about Mother Teresa, and she had a way to stay on mission through all some crazy, and she was on the ground.
Yes.
Where it was needed, right?
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
No way.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that. So before we wrap up, there's two things. First, if somebody wanted to go find out a little more about Gaston County, is it gastoncounty.gov? Is that the website?
Yes,
and you can find stuff about the HR department or just anything they want to find out going on with Gaston County?
That's it, www.gastongov.com.
Any last words to close this one out?
Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Life has twists, turns. It's a lot of plots, and obstacles and hurdles. You have the valley moments. And as I told my son the other day, I said, you have your mountaintop. Use the mountaintop. Use the time wisely when you're on the mountaintop, because that's when you're celebrating and you're hey, you've got this achievement. But take that time and use it wisely, because when you're in the valley, it's then that you're going to need to remember the mountaintop experience. Every chapter is significant to your story. So don't try to move too fast. Don't forfeit. All of it works together for your good.
Yeah, so I think we talk about the journey. I think we'd like to think there's some destination. I mean, there is an ultimate destination, but when we're here, I don't know that there is a destination. It's the journey, and how can we be a little better today than yesterday, and all of the things that we're doing and involved with. But I want to close out with one thing. One of my favorite books, and I think what I've heard from you today relates to this. There's a great book, in my opinion, by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And my favorite one is first seek to understand before being understood. And I was, I kind of heard that as your underlying story and foundation, and that is, if we had a little bit more of that in the world today, we want people to understand us first instead of taking a step back and trying to understand, their circumstance and situation, whatever they're dealing with. Everybody is always dealing with something.
That's right.
All the time. And if we could just try to slow down and understand that, it would be maybe a little better. So, Amia, this has been great. Listen, I appreciate what you do, the person you are. Just your work in Gaston County impacts everything going on around us. But I work with you and be able to interact through Gaston Together, and somehow you allowing your child to be on one of my teams, and she survived, I guess.
It did.
I mean, but, so you're just, my experience with you personally has just been positive, and I appreciate even your family, right? Having a family here is a positive for our community. So I appreciate that. And that's what's needed in our community, right? People who are here raising families and realizing and doing things that it's not just about them, right? So again, I appreciate that greatly. So to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. Thanks again to Amia for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by the great Rachel Cowart from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.